Hey, Delishees, grab a plate and feast on the delicious culture. I'm your host, Jon Francois. We are feasting with special guest, filmmaker Justin Smothers, who I had the pleasure of meeting at a networking event in New York City. God, it was already a little over a month ago. Yeah, my God. Yeah, because it's February 26th as we are recording this, and that event was January 23rd, wasn't it?
Yeah. Time flies.
That is crazy. That is crazy.
Yeah.
Justin, thank you so much for being on the show, man. I appreciate it.
No problem. Thank you for having me.
And we like to start with some icebreakers. It's all about food, pop culture, and lifestyle on this podcast. So let's start with the food part.
Cool.
What is a favorite meal that you had in the past week?
In the past week, I don't even know, man. See, my memory is terrible when it comes to food because I'm very much like a grab and go. I don't know. In the past week, I guess I had a pretty good what was this like a vegan kind of like steak bagel from
A
a
vegan
place.
steak bagel.
Yeah, it was like a very interesting piece. Oh no, it's sausage. I mean, it wasn't steak, it was sausage. But it was from a place across the street. I think it's called Compass Coffee. They had like a kind of like a vegan option there. I think it was like either like
And you're based in Washington, D.C., right?
Yeah. It was either plant-based or chicken or something like that, but it wasn't regular sausage. But that was pretty good.
Okay.
I love a breakfast sandwich. That's my thing. I like the croissant sandwiches, the English muffins, all that stuff. That's my thing. I like that stuff.
It is. And it's funny you say that because you told me just before the recording that you don't like, do you not normally eat breakfast?
Normally not. When I wake up, it's literally like, maybe I'll get a coffee from downstairs in my apartment building, or if anything, I'll grab some water and get dressed and go right to work.
That seems to be a common thing. Like nobody is eating breakfast anymore. And I don't know, call me old fashioned. I guess it's just something that I got from my parents. I always envisioned it as the most important meal of the day. So like, even if I'm like quick on the go to work, I always make sure that I have like my oatmeal and my coffee to get me going. I'm an Uber and Lyft driver, so I just need to have like that good pick me up to start in the morning. I don't know. Do you think part of it is just like people aren't like really hungry when they wake up in the morning? Like how early do you get up?
So our call time is usually, because I work for a news station full time, 9. Our call time is about 9 a.m. every day. So it's normal times. I know most people are like, oh, that's nothing. That's fine. I like to sleep in. Call time's 9. I'm waking up at 7:38. So then I time it out perfectly. Wake up, shower, rest, light face routine, and I'm out the door. So that leaves like a very small window to grab something. If I can, I might, again, get a sandwich from across the street from my apartment. But usually I just go straight to work, and because I plan on having a hearty lunch. I'll usually get these little sushi packs that they have at this place across the street from my job, and it's pretty filling. So for me, I have a hearty lunch and a nice dinner, and I'm good. But if I can, like I said, breakfast, get a nice breakfast sandwich.
So a news station, the news station in DC that you work for, how far do you live? It sounds like you live pretty close by.
Yeah, driving wise, you're in the city. So DC it's like a mini New York when it comes to the traffic. So without traffic, it would be like a 10, 15-minute drive. But with regular commuter traffic, it can take about 30 to 45 minutes. If it's really bad, it can take about an hour.
Yeah. All right. So I get what you're saying. So it's not even, so for you in particular, it's not so much that you're not hungry in the morning. It's that you, like you said, you like to sleep. And then when you get up, it's that there's no time to sit down and have a breakfast. You just got to get up and go, maybe have a quick yogurt or whatever. Yeah. Okay.
Because I'm a water drinker. So again, give me a bottle of water or something like that. And I'm cool. I can make that do until about 12 o'clock. And then that's when lunch is for me. So,
wow. So that's like about what? 3 hours of just water in your stomach?
Yeah, I'm cool with that, honestly. It's funny enough. I don't know why or how, but I've never really been like a huge breakfast eater. And the funny thing is, I'll eat my breakfast during lunchtime if I want to. And I'll just call that my breakfast that I had at like noon. And that'll be what I had.
So you like the breakfast sandwiches, but you would much rather eat it like lunch or dinner time if they had the option to serve it then?
Yeah, I've actually gotten made fun of at my office where they'll see me get like a croissant and they'll be like, even a croissant for lunch? And I'm like, yeah, it's like it's breakfast food. And I'm like, oh, bro, it's fine. I like it. Because I get the little microwavable pack. So that's kind of my thing.
That's awesome. You're reminding me of my brother and my cousin right now. So first of all, my brother, when he was young and in school, whereas I think I have a sister and brother. I
Mm.
don't think they were really good at waking up on time for school. I was usually the one that was good at waking up on time and having room for breakfast before school. But my brother in particular, he would be the type that would sleep in. My parents would yell at him to get up. He would only have time to eat a yogurt really quickly before he gets on the bus. So
Yeah.
that's what you're reminding me of. And then I have a cousin who could eat a croissant casually, like it's a whole meal for breakfast or lunch or dinner. So
Yeah, and you're good.
that's
Yeah.
it's filling. It's a nice bready filling thing. So,
Yeah.
thank you.
Granted, I won't eat one. I'll be honest with you. I'll get two because the pack comes with two in it. So that's what I'll do. I'll get the two, and I'm good. That's my.
I should have given you the croissants that my mom and aunt gave me when God, I was living in Albany, New York at the time. I
Yeah.
live currently in Vermont, but at the time I was living in Albany, New York, and they were visiting my apartment for the first time. And as a sort of homecoming gift, they gave me a box of croissants, and that thing just kind of aged and went stale and got dusty over the course of time because I'm never a croissant guy. I never look at a croissant and say, "Oh my god, I
True.
got to eat that." So
Yeah.
I should have given it to you had we known each other at the time.
True. See, the funny thing is, I'm not a lone croissant eater, but it's the sandwiches that I like. That's
Yeah.
my thing. Yeah, yeah. I really like the croissant sandwiches. I think there's some place I went to where they gave you regular burgers, but the burger bun itself was like a whole croissant. I don't forgot what place that was, but that was interesting to me because it's usually with breakfast. So seeing it being done on like a burger was like, oh, okay. People are starting to mix it up a little bit.
So, all right. So there's burger items in a croissant that you could do. Like you could do like
Yeah.
a meat, like cheese and lettuce and tomato kind of thing, and then you can also do breakfast items, as we know, like egg, sausage, whatever. Like, what do you prefer? Do you prefer like that more lunch or dinner time setup with maybe burger items, or do you like a breakfast item in your croissant?
So weirdly enough, I'm gonna say the breakfast, but it's so weird. Like I'm one of those people where, and this isn't specific for me, but like they hate tomatoes, but they like ketchup. So with
Yeah.
me, I like eggs on my breakfast sandwich, but eating like scrambled eggs by themselves, I can do it, but it starts to make me feel weird over time. So, like, it's a very like, if I do eat scrambled eggs by themselves, I have to put, like, a bunch of cheese. If I put them in, like, a wrap or something, that's fine, but again, it has to have some type of cheese in it. Eating eggs by themselves, it has always made me feel weird, and my mom would always say, like, "Oh, it's the cholesterol and blah, 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 blah," but I just couldn't do it. And when it comes to, like, the sausage or things like that, I usually would get chicken if I can, like a chicken patty sausage or something like that, but pork, I try not to eat too much pork.
Mm.
Only thing pork related I may eat is like a pork rind, and that's about it. But when it comes to like, again, like I said, a pork sausage or a pork link or a patty, try not to eat those too much.
I feel you on the scrambled egg thing. I mean, I'm personally, I could eat it in sandwich form or scrambled eggs by themselves, but you're certainly not the
Yeah,
only one because there's a certain like weird squishy texture to eating scrambled eggs by themselves that doesn't vibe with a lot of people. I mean, I used to have a
yeah.
co-host that just straight up hated eggs, period. Like so much so that if you just say the word egg, they would just vomit. So
I get it. Me and eggs have a very love-hate relationship. I just discovered Sunny Side Up about 10 years ago, and since then I've been very intrigued about that. So that was like my new thing. I was always trying to master how to keep the yolk from cracking and things like that. So I was maybe like, I'm 30 now, so yeah, about when I was 20, it was like a new invention for me. I was like, okay, I didn't know I could do this, and then just started randomly trying to whip up new things. I don't like egg whites though. I don't know why. They don't fill me up at all. It feels like I'm eating air if I'm eating just egg whites.
how does egg whites work? Because like you say egg whites, and I imagine somebody just like putting that in a cup and drinking it like they're
Like
Rocky.
Rocky.
Yeah, like yeah, they're about to go, for the fight with Apollo Creed.
Yeah.
What are egg whites like? Like you just
I think it's just again, I think it's just the egg without the yolk, which I get it. It's likely way more healthier. But I think I don't know. I've tried it a few times. Like I think I bought a carton when I first moved into like my first place by myself. I was like, oh, I can finally live in my own spot and put my own food in here. My mom, we were young, growing up obviously as kids, so she would put, pizza rolls and pizza bagels and hot pockets and all that stuff, which is great. When you're young, this is great. But when you got older, I was like, I'm gonna be healthy. So I went out and I saw this little carton of like egg whites or something. I was like, I'm gonna eat that. I made it, put a little cheese on it, and I was like, this is not, it doesn't stick stick to the ribs. So I had to go back to using just regular eggs after that. I tried it once. It was interesting, but yeah, nah, that was kind of my thing.
how would you describe the taste of egg whites?
I don't remember fully because again, after that, that was like a decade ago. After that, I was good. They weren't nasty. I know they weren't bad. It just didn't fill me up. Um, I think the yolk is likely the part that adds a lot of the stuff that sticks to your ribs when you eat it, that makes you feel full when you eat it. But I
Mm.
think that's the point of eating egg whites is you're not supposed to get the full off of it, you're supposed to just be satisfied.
Interesting. You were mentioning the breakfast sandwiches that you like, and although my regular breakfast during the week is like the Kodiak peak oatmeal,
Mhm,
instant oatmeals, and a nice mug of coffee.
mhm.
Whenever it's a special occasion, my wife and I go out to a restaurant for breakfast. I will always either go for an omelet or a breakfast sandwich. Give me a breakfast sandwich with, I don't know, everything. Just eggs, bacon, cheese, sausage, tomatoes,
Mhm.
onions, peppers, maybe cilantro if they do that with breakfast sandwiches.
Yeah,
Yeah. Breakfast sandwiches to me, they're always like a special occasion, like let's go out to eat kind of thing. And and
yeah.
and and boy, they could be really good. So we've established food. How about pop culture? What is a favorite piece of pop culture that you have consumed lately? It could be a favorite TV show, a movie that you liked, a piece of music, Broadway play, book. Like what are you consuming lately that you really like?
The, Vince Staples show with the rapper Vince Staples that came out on Netflix. It came out a while ago, actually. They just released the 2nd season, and then they've canceled it, which sucks. Um, but I watched that recently, and I watched it all the way through, and I got my girlfriend to watch it with me after I watched it, and we watched it again, and, the show was really good. I liked it. It gave the vibes of, like, Donald Glover's Atlanta, which I know it probably got a lot of not recommendations, it got a lot of comparisons to that, but, that's one piece that I watched that I really liked.
So I've never heard of the Vince Staples show. What is it about?
It's hard to even say. It's one of those like it's kind of a sitcom because it literally is just situational comedy. Like each episode is just situational. Like the overarching thing is just he's a guy who's like a local rapper, but at the same time he's just like a regular guy in like his neighborhood in Cali. If I'm not mistaken, it might be Compton, but I might be off. I'm in DC, so if I got that wrong, anybody in California, my bad. No, but he's in LA and he's a rapper, but at the same time he's just a regular guy and he just goes through a bunch of things. Everything from girlfriend drama, getting thrown in jail, family issues, like just a bunch of stuff that just kind of keeps hitting him like one after the other. I think there's like an episode where he's like in jail with a guy and he's like talking to him and the guy is like, look my phone up. There you go. And the guy is like, oh, are you Vince? And he's like, yeah, man. And he's like, oh, yeah, I'm such and such. She's like, oh, such and such. She's like, yeah, blah, 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 blah. And they talk back and forth. And then the guy is randomly just like, yeah, we not cool. And when these cell doors open, I'm going to mess you up. And he's like, oh. And now it's like him in jail. And the guy just keeps looking at him just like, oh, no, bro, we're not friends. And when these doors open, we're going to go at it. The dude is like 300 pounds, super big. And Vince is like a scrawny little black dude.
Damn.
So it's a funny show like that. And again, it gave me Atlanta vibes because I was so upset when Atlanta went off air. That right is my number one show. For me, I think it goes Atlanta, Snowfall, and the third spot is still kind of open, but for now, I put the Vince Staples show up in there. But Atlanta was our number one show, so having the Vince Staples show to fall back on was really good. I actually didn't finish watching season 2 yet, and I think I know a lot of people do this, which is funny. When a show goes off air, you don't ever watch the last few episodes because you don't want it to end. So I'm like, I think I'm purposely just not watching it because I don't want to like accept that it's not coming back.
Yeah.
But yeah,
Yeah, you're
that's
mourning.
what I'm
You're
watching right
mourning
now.
because you've grown an attachment to the show, to the characters. My example would be, my wife and I don't know if you've ever heard of the show Homeland, but we love it. It's a spy thriller. It was on Showtime back in the 2010s,
Mhm.
and we're not finished with it yet. Like we're out of the entire 8 seasons. We're I believe we just finished the fourth season, so we still have a while to go.
Okay.
But the first 2 to 3 seasons, they were really focused on this Nicholas Brody character, this American prisoner of war, his
Mhm.
family, his best friend also in the military. And then, spoiler alert, Nicholas Brody is gone after season 3, and so goes his family members, so goes his friends. And even though the show Homeland overall continues, you kind of mourn these characters that are no longer there because you feel like,
Yeah.
oh, these are people that I've developed relationships with. These are people that I feel like I have this really tight bond with, that I've invited to my home every night, and now they're gone. It's hard to accept. So I kind of know what you mean with the Vince Staples thing. Atlanta is fabulous.
Oh,
I did
I
not
love
watch the
it.
entire series. I think I watched maybe like the first season or so before I dropped off of it. But
Yeah.
yeah, no, I thought it was a really, really clever comedy. I think sometimes drama, right? I mean, how would you describe it? Is it a dramedy, maybe?
Dude, that show is again, it's because you want to call it a sitcom, but they have episodes where it's not really funny. Like it has funny situations in it, but it's like it's not funny. So I don't even know how I would describe that. But I think shows like that are becoming like the norm, not the norm, but they're becoming their own genre. Because I know that there are a few shows that aren't, because obviously Atlanta and Staples they're not black shows in my opinion. There are shows that I would say are black shows, and there are shows that just have black people in it. And I would say these shows are just shows that happen to have black leads. But then there are shows that have white leads that are more, for like a wider audience. But like they have the same like makeup. And I forgot what show I'm thinking about, but Atlanta, when it came on, everybody was comparing it to a specific show. I cannot remember the name of it for the life of me, but it had the same exact cadence and kind of like the same flow, same comedy style, the same timing. And I just knew like, okay, these are the type of like genre of shows that I personally like, where it's very realistic, but it's also like situationally, it's not. Like the cadences are very real. The way they talk is very real. The looks on the faces and things like that. It's not over the top and wacky and too goofy when it comes to comedy, and it's not too dull and like dramatic when it comes to drama. Um, but I don't know what the genre is, but I know that genre, whatever Atlanta and Vince Staples fall under, those are the shows that I really like. And then for the more dramatic side, obviously you got shows like Snowfall that I kind of like it.
Yeah. What I liked about Atlanta was that like it had something interesting to say about like hip hop culture, what it means to be black, whether it be in this stereotyped mold
Yeah.
or in sort of a more quirky, witty sense that you might not see portrayed so much on television.
Mhm.
Um, I just was not surprised coming from Donald Glover that we would get something like that, because before that, I remember seeing Donald Glover on this NBC sitcom Community. Have you ever seen the show?
Yeah. 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 Yeah.
Yeah, like
About that.
could not be more different than what he offers with Atlanta. Like with the Community Donald Glover, you get a resemblance of like his stand-up comedy roots and what he used to do with like Derek Comedy, which was this sort of comedy troupe that he formed with these other white guys. Donald Glover had a more, I would say, mainstream white accepting persona in his comedy prior to Atlanta. And then something started to happen when Atlanta came around, and then it sort of meshed with his Childish Gambino hip hop work, where it's like, oh, wow, like, no, you're not just this black guy putting out comedy that appeals to whites, but now you're doing, I don't know, thought provoking, satirical, dramatical, comedic work
Mhm.
that's making white people think, that's making black people think, and making black people love you. And I don't know, and especially when he came out with like the "This Is America" song as Childish Gambino. I mean, there was a time, I think maybe around like the mid to late 2010s, where my perception of Donald Glover started to change, and I really gained a lot of respect for him because there was just more layers. There was just more layers to his artistic output, if that makes any sense.
A thing that I really liked about the show, when I first started watching, I was watching it with an old friend of mine. It was a guy named Zach Goldsmith. He's an amazing cinematographer. He helped me do my first film that I made. I think he won a cinematography award for that one too. But we first started watching Atlanta together because I remember I think they released the first episode on YouTube, and we watched it when we were editing a project together, like back in college. And when we watched it, we were like, "Oh yeah, whatever this is, bro, we're watching every episode."
Yeah.
And then on, we would like link up and go watch like every episode together and like talk about it afterwards. It was super dope. And I just remember like as I watched it, it felt like my life was kind of like aligning with the characters because the whole thing was about, Donald Glover and his cousin trying to like make it in like the hip hop industry.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that's kind of the same cusp that me and Zach were on at the time where we were trying to make it in film. And like everything that they were going through was almost just lining up with exactly me and him were going through. Um, like there was one episode, I think it was called The Club, and it was like him and Paperboy were like doing like a club appearance. And this had nothing to do with our film side, but like we were young. So we were like going out to like clubs and things like that. And I just remember watching the episode and everything he had about the club was exactly how I felt in the club scene. Everything cost money. Like they bought a section, and when the section came and they sat down in the section, they was like, "Okay, cool, it's gonna be like $300 for your bottles." And he was like, "But the bottles came with the section." She was like, "Yeah, and you got to pay for $300 for them." And I'm like, So you go and you do the same thing at the club where you're like, hey, can I get a drink? And you order a drink and they give you like this much alcohol and this much soda. And you're like, so I just paid like $40. And in DC, drinks are expensive. So you can pay like $30 for like literally like a cup of alcohol. And you basically pay for 3 of those. Now you can spend $120. Like, oh, it's, $90 plus tax, almost $120. And you barely have drank any alcohol. And outside of just the alcohol in the club part, when it came to watching how he was when he was trying to become a rapper, and once he finally got like a small name, seeing how people that didn't really give a crap about him in the beginning are now trying to be his friend later. Same thing me and Zach were going. We're like, people didn't really talk to us that much. And then once we started making our projects, and we didn't really get like a name per se, but we at least had like some work under our belt. Now randomly people who wouldn't look our way were like, hey, next time you guys make something, call me, I'll let it help. And I was like, we called you for this last project and you like didn't even respond. So seeing things like that kind of happen was like funny to me. But that's kind of why I personally like the show, because it was like everything kind of aligned up. And then also seeing like how he had some episodes that had very deep messages that you had to like decode. I think in season 1 or season 2, he had an episode called Teddy Perkins, I think, or the character's name was Teddy Perkins, which was like a character that had like the combination of like Michael Jackson, Prince, and like a bunch of other musicians who had all kind of been tormented in like their childhood. And we were kind of, this character was like kind of raised the same way, where it was like, hey, I'm going to beat you so you're great. And the character was like, he became one of the greatest musicians ever, but at what cost? Because now he was like he was screwed up in the head and had a bunch of screws loose. And I thought that episode was so cool, because after it came on and it went off, I got to like sit down and decode like, okay, who is this character supposed to be? Why did he write it? What purpose does he have in the episode of like that he has when he's talking to the character? Like, is he going to come back? Is he not? Like things like that. And he had a lot of episodes that really made me think. Another one was called The Woods. That episode really grasped me and really had me looking at myself. Yeah, he had a lot of stuff in that show that really made me like look deeper into each episode and think. And that's one thing I take inspiration from my own work, is wanting to have to watch my stuff and like go back and watch it and look for like the hidden little pieces.
And wasn't Donald Glover's character white in one episode, or am I going crazy?
That was the one. That was Teddy Perkins.
The Teddy Perkins one. Okay.
Yep, that was the one. He wore I think he thought he was going to win an award, which I think they should have. And he wore it to the award show and they didn't win.
Keith Stanfield, who was one of Donald Glover's friends. Amazing, right? Yeah, I first saw this guy in Get Out, of course, the Jordan Peele horror movie classic from like 2016. And he's just one of those guys, you watch him on screen and you're like, who is that? Because he just has an intensity to his acting that I really, really find appealing. And it's that intensity that works both in a dramatic horror sense in Get Out, and then in Atlanta, where he kind of does play that
like the stoner, like the goofy stoner.
Yeah.
But I think when you watch him though, he still says little nuggets of like, not just positivity, but it's like little bits of like information to let you know he's not stupid. He knows exactly what he's talking about. It's just he doesn't speak really unless he really has to. But I think characters like that are so dope, where they don't say much, but when they do, you should listen because they're saying something that matters.
I just remember him being very dry and being very stone-faced.
Yeah.
And yeah, I don't know. He just has that kind of delivery where it works both in a dramatic sense, and it certainly works in a comedic sense when you're trying to, give out that sort of dry, darkish kind of humor. And he was great in Roofman. I don't know if you saw the movie Roofman with Channing Tatum, but he plays, because Channing Tatum, like, it's based on a real story about a guy who was known for breaking into like the roofs of McDonald's and
I saw the trailer. I didn't watch that one. Okay,
yeah, breaking in and trying to do robberies in like McDonald's restaurants. And he also just turns out to be like the most generous, kind-hearted person. And I know Lakeith Stanfield was like Channing Tatum's assistant or friend, because they used to like they used to be in the military, and then Channing Tatum's character got out and it struggled to make a good, decent, innocent life, and now resorted to this. And Channing Tatum and Lakeith Stanfield's character was his co-military guy friend who helps him with these crimes and taking on different identities so he doesn't get caught. So yeah, Roofman is really good. Don't just see the trailer, see the entire movie. Lakeith Stanfield, that's another example of his great acting, along with Atlanta and Get Out. I think it's really fabulous to see.
Yeah, one of his recent work that I really liked was there was the piece that he did where he played almost like a Black Jesus, and I can't remember what it's
Yeah,
called. What is it called? Oh man, I'm
I'll
drawing a
look it up.
blank. But I watched it about 3 times, and I thought it was so cool. People obviously turned off by it because for religious reasons, but when you watch it, it touched on all of the like pieces that it needed to touch on as far as like not just the religion, but like the story and like the biblical stories and all that stuff. And I thought I liked it.
It's
Personally,
called
like
the
good
Book of
episode.
the Book of Clarence is what you're talking about.
Yes,
Yep,
yes.
yep.
I thought that was so cool. I really like that film. And I get why people were turned off by it, like a guy who's pretending to be Jesus, smoking weed, and blah blah blah. I'm like, you really have to look deeper into stuff like that because they're not trying to offend. There's likely a message there that I think if you just watch, you'll enjoy.
I love that. Yeah, I gotta watch that. That seems like an interesting concept. Jay-Z was one of the producers, and that
Yeah,
surprised me because Jay-Z, what I like about him is that, like, he's obviously had this mammoth mainstream success as a rapper, business mogul, whatever you wanna call it, but he still values really great art. So I could see him, like, producing, getting behind something like this. So that's really nice. So you had mentioned that you're a filmmaker. Take me into the background of that. Like, what made you first passionate about filmmaking? Like, how did that all begin for you?
so filmmaking, funny enough, was never my passion per se. I like to write. That was always my thing since I was a kid, and I never really knew that that was my passion. But like the older I got, and I started looking back on things that I did, I realized like, okay, I see what my calling is. I remember when I was in maybe like second grade, we all got tasked. Like we all got the task. I'm not good with certain words, but we all got the task to write a poem, and we were gonna make like a big poetry book of like all of the like first, second, and third graders. Every class had their own personal book, I think, and then they were going to combine them at the end of the year. And when they showed my class our book, everybody like at each page had like 2 or 4 poems on it. And so I'm like, okay, I'm flipping through to try to find mine. I'm like, okay, bam, 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 bam. And I get to a page and it shows mine, and my entire poem fills up an entire page by itself.
Damn.
And I'm like, and I instantly I started feeling like, oh dang, I think I may have did too much. I thought the poems had to be long and we had to tell a story. And so I thought I did something wrong. Never said anything about it, but honestly, I admit that I felt embarrassed. I was like, I did too much. Everybody else's poem was so short, and mine is this long. Oh man, why did I do that? And now I look back on it, and I'm like, that's because you liked to write. Like your poem was a literal story about a kid. If I remember correctly, it was like a kid who sees like a monster in the hallway of his elementary school, and then he like runs and gets chased by the monster, and then later on he finds out that the monster is really like the hall monitor, like
Ah,
stuff like that. So I thought that was like wrong to do. And then again, later on in life, as I kept going and taking English classes, I really had like a calling for like English and literature classes. Love to read, love to write. And as I kept doing it more and more and more, and realizing that I really liked it, I didn't know where I was going to take it. And then I got to college and met Zach. He was a film buff. My thing has always been just general media production and writing. Sports broadcast, news. Like I said, my 9 to 5 is news, but my part time is sports production. So I work with the WNBA. I work with Major League Soccer, a few colleges up here. I do a lot. So everything from small ESPN productions to again the big stuff. And so I have worked with the Redskins as well and all that type of stuff. So doing all of that work there early on let me know, okay, I like just production. Photography is not my thing, but videography, I love it. Linking up with him and seeing his love for film, he kind of like brought me on board when it came to the film stuff. He didn't like general production. He thought news was boring. He didn't really get sports. None of that stuff was his thing. But film, he loved it. And so I brought him into the world of production. It was like, bro, each basketball game is a film. Like each player has their own story and how they got here. Each team has their own story and why they're here. During the game, there's going to be a story during the game. Your job as the cameraman is to sell the story of the game. This guy that made that shot, why are you getting a shot of him? Because he's important. He got the shot. He might end up getting the game. He might end up getting the game winner at the end. You got to show him as a cinematographer of the basketball game why it's important. He was like, oh, okay. So each game is like a film. Yes. Then he showed me when it came to film, these are just productions, bro. If you break it down, each scene has a writer. If you tell that story through your writing, you sit down and you really flesh it out. We can shoot it as a production and break it down and you can tell that story. So I started seeing the things in my head that I was already seeing when it came to my stories and being like, oh, okay, we can actually get cameras and make it. And once I learned the science behind filmmaking due to him showing me films, it really helped me flesh out my storytelling because now instead of just seeing the characters from like a character point of view in my mind. I saw it from a director's point of view. I saw it from, okay, the camera's going to be here, lights are going to be here, shots going to look like this. They're going to make this motion. They're going to pan with the camera, or we're going to put on a gimbal, or we're going to follow them, or we're going to put on a dolly and do a push. Things like that really helped me because he taught me that stuff when it came to film. When I taught him the stuff with production, we both kind of swapped ideas with it, and we really ended up helping each other. Once he taught me, which films to watch and what to look for and things like that, that really upped my interest in film, and I started naturally realizing which films I liked. And it was through bouncing back and forth with him, and then finally being able to work on a film set. A few different small ones. My biggest one being 21 Bridges with Chadwick Boseman. Rest in peace to him. His friend giving me the chance to work on that production with him was major because when I got there, I was always amped up when I would work on any production period, whether it be sports, news, anything. But being on that film set, being out there with all of those creative minds, even though we were not able to talk to anybody, just being out there and feeling that energy, it really got me already hooked. It got me hooked into what I was already like hooked into. It dug the hooks even deeper into it to let me know like I love this. And the mindset that I'm in now is, when I was younger, my mind was bright eyed and bushy tailed. It was like, hey, let's try to become the next, Ryan Coogler. We're gonna blow up. We're gonna go to Hollywood. And we're gonna make it. But now I'm at the point where I just want to do it for fun. I enjoy linking up with my friends, calling a few of my, comrades that I got. It's like, hey, bro, I know you shoot. Bring your camera on this date. I got this project. Let's sit down and I'll show you the script. Calling my guy that does audio, saying, hey, bro, bring your audio equipment. Calling a couple lighting guys. Come on, bro. And then like the 5 or 6 of us will go. I'll get a couple actors. I'll get like $1,000 that I saved up. And 2-3 days on a random weekend, we'll just hustle and make like a 15-20 minute short film. I'll edit it, knock it out, bam, put it into a couple festivals, and hopefully win some of these small awards right here. And out of the pure enjoyment that I get of doing that, do it all over again. And then as I keep doing it, if the opportunity comes for me to do something bigger, because a producer, like that's what happened with my first 2 films, a random producer saw it that I worked at my college with, and she gave us funds. If that happens again, great. If it doesn't, I'm still going to keep doing it because I enjoy it. But that initial spark came from just linking up with Zach and him showing me the enjoyment of filmmaking. He helped me kind of chisel my way out of just being just somebody that liked to write to actually writing films.
So you had mentioned when you were younger wanting to be something like a a Ryan Coogler or Steven Spielberg, like obviously these well-known writer directors. So when you were younger and you were writing great stories like the poem you mentioned, I wonder like if there was that idea of like, oh man, like I would love to make these into movies, and then you just kind of like ended up falling into, like you say, general media production, being on the technical side of like shooting sports and news, because it was like, all right, I'm in the industry, but also this is a much more secure job to have than trying
Yep.
to write my own films. Was that kind
Mhm.
of why you pivoted toward general media production before you eventually like found your way to filmmaking more and more?
Yes and no. Because it kind of, again, because I just love just the general process of production. I just think it's really cool to get a bunch of people in a room together and essentially say like, hey, let's pluck everybody's brain and whatever we think of, we're going to do, whether it's a film or if there's a basketball game coming up, where the camera's going to go. Hey, just set the switcher up here, the producer station here, audio board's going to go here. If it's a basketball game or something, the replay is going to go here. If it's news, then we're just going to put whatever we got to put. Just line all these things up and then turn the cameras on and we're going to shoot and people are going to watch it. I always thought that process was so cool. Um, like, I remember my first memory of really like finding production interesting was middle school, and I took a journalism class because I knew I liked to write by like 8th grade, and we took a journalism class, and I remember we took a field trip to Fox 5, which is our news station here, the local Fox station here, and when we
DC.
went
Yeah.
up there. Yeah, when we went up there, it was very honestly, it was very boring at first because like everybody was so businessy. So they were just like, "Oh, this is where they do the meetings at, and this is where the green room is, and blah 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 blah." And then I remember when they took us to the floor of the news station. I was like, I saw all the lights and everything was on, and like instantly my brain was like, "This is so cool. What is this?" I didn't know the term for it. I'm like 14. I just thought it was amazing. And then I remember officially my brain went to, I want to do this when they took us to the control room. And we went in there and I remember we peeked our heads in and I saw all of the monitors on the wall. And it was like people that were in like DC and in Virginia and in Maryland, all these other places were getting ready to do their segments. The director turned around and spoke to us and let us know what everything was. And I remember seeing all the monitors. I was like, I want to do this. Instantly, my brain was like, I don't know what this is. I want to be in this room in the future. And great, very grateful to be there right now. Um, but that same feeling that I had there is the same feeling I had when I finally got to work on an official film set. Once I got there, I was like, yo, I like this. I want to do this. Um, but definitely the safety aspect of working in production pulled like it pulled me in because I knew once you kind of get into a market like DC, we have a bunch of sports teams, everything from colleges. Right now, I'm currently working at American University, George Mason, and George Washington University. Those are my top three. Professionally, I do Major League Soccer, some Redskins games, the Washington Mystics, and the Capital City Go-Go, which is G League. Cool. And then outside of that, I'll do random sporadic stuff for Georgetown University or any random teams that may call. Cool. So I got news that I do full time, these games that I do part time. Cool. It's very consistent. But there's something because you can be somewhat creative, but there's always a box there because it's sports. It's a general media. It's a way that they do it. Cameras get set up in the same spot 99% of the time. But on film sets, it's so free flowing when it comes to the creativity. So what comes with the security of the general production side, you kind of get boxed into you can't be creative. And that's also the thing that makes me fearful about going to film full time, which is you can be creative, but it's nothing guaranteed. There's no guarantee this film is going to take off and it's going to make money. There's no guarantee that whoever hires you is going to pay you a decent rate if you're shooting or if you're directing. It's so open. But it's not so much of a fear because I've kind of turned it into like an acceptance of, you know what, it probably won't make money. You probably won't get on Prime. You probably won't get on Netflix. You probably won't get on Apple TV. But you know what? Make it, put it online, do a screening, let your friends and family come, let the actors' friends and family come, and just make it out of sheer enjoyment of being able to do it. But yeah, definitely the security aspect pushed me towards doing the general production stuff. It was also just a general interest because I love it. But that made me definitely be like, once I got in of like, okay, I'm going to sit here and enjoy myself for a while. But going to New York was my first step in trying to break out of the matrix.
Like you want to move from Washington D.C. to New York
If
to
I can
pursue.
find something that
Yeah.
pays around what I'm getting paid right now, as far as a decent rate and can give me the same sense of security, I'd definitely be open to it.
Well, I mean, great thing about New York is that it's just a melting pot of everything. You can
Yeah.
definitely find work. You could definitely find more work in broadcast media if you're looking for that security, but you can also find a bunch of fellow aspiring filmmakers like yourself to connect with and network with and maybe, get some financial incentive off of it.
Yeah.
You definitely remind me of like when I used to do acting more seriously back in high school and college. I was, acting, in my high school theater department and then did some theater in college as well. And when I graduated, both high school and college, I was like, all right, professional actor, that's going to be my thing, theater, TV, film. I'm going to see what I can do. And then it didn't take too long for me to just not really like the uncertainty of the audition process. Not only was I very hard on myself and the rejection can be tough to take on a regular basis, but I am someone that very much likes a stability, a security in what I'm doing in terms of like making sure bills are paid. And
Mhm.
I fell into broadcasting, radio and television. I used to host a public access television show in my hometown of West Hartford, Connecticut. I used to, work for radio stations in Connecticut, Iowa, upstate New York, here in
Mhm.
Vermont, where I currently live. And it was great because it was like, oh, entertainment. Like I can entertain people as an on-air personality, whether it be on the radio or television side. And also it's a job, a 9 to 5, where I know that there's a paycheck coming every week or every 2 weeks. So it was like that nice balance. So it's a pro and con. I see what you're saying. Because with the acting thing, I mean, I'm getting back into it.
Mhm.
And there's certainly a degree of uncertainty still in taking that on professionally, where I'm glad I'm not into it in a full-time capacity anymore.
Yeah.
But also there is a, like you had mentioned with you in filmmaking, there is a sort of creative looseness that you might not get, as opposed to, broadcasting or podcasting. I like podcasting, but it does become an extension of radio or television broadcasting where it's like, all right, you know, same microphone, same office. You have a format that you kind of follow to keep your
Mhm.
sanity as you produce episodes weekly, or else you'll go insane
Mhm.
trying to come up with a completely different show every week.
Mhm.
And then maybe you take on a theater project or a film project in your respect where it's its own isolated, unique thing, its own story.
Yeah.
And, you can kind of play around with it, improvise, come up with new ideas here and there, brainstorm for, I don't know, 3 to 6 months. And then there you
Mhm.
go. Here's your project that becomes its own a unique special thing. So
Yeah.
I know what you mean. I know what you mean. It's certainly, I don't know. I think it kind of reminds me of that relationship between art and commerce,
Yeah.
stability and taking a
Mhm.
risk,
Yeah.
gambling. Yeah.
Yep.
I know what
That's
you mean.
that's exactly what I told some students I was talking to last night. I think I was talking to before we went on. I spoke to some kids. I'm not gonna call them kids because like there was one guy who was like 40. It was at the local community college because I went there and they like me to come back once a year just to show the kids like, hey, I made it in production. You can too. And that's exactly what I told them, which was my full time job is great. Love it to death. Literally, like not just because of the money, but I actually enjoy doing the shows. But if you ever wanna make it in the industry. Same thing I did even with my full time job. You're going to have to just jump and take a risk. And I think filmmaking is probably one of the scarier ones to do because it's like walking on a tightrope without a net. Like once you're out there, you're out there. You got actors. If you're directing, you got actors and all these people under you. If you're an actor, you're out there on set and you're now spending time doing this and you're calling out of work and all this stuff. And who's to say if the film would even see the light of day? So it's definitely a scary thing to do. But I think once you complete one, you get addicted. No matter what position you were in, once you do one film and you see it finished, you get addicted to that feeling of like, I did that. I want to do that again.
Can you talk about the film that you worked on that starred Chadwick Boseman? What was your position on that film? What was the title of the film again?
So the film was called 21 Bridges. I guess I could say names. We got the film due to we met a gentleman by the name of Logan Coles, who was a close friend of Chadwick's from Howard all the way up until the time he passed away. I don't know if they knew each other before that, but I know that they met at Howard because I met another gentleman that introduced us to Logan, whose name was Ron Ross. I was introduced to him by Zach Goldsmith I went to college with, and Zach met Ron at a Mystics game that he was working, and that was our whole thing. Whenever we worked, it was like, bro, if you meet somebody, introduce me to him. I was like, if I meet somebody, I'm introducing you to him. If they put me onto something, I'm calling you, and we both going. Same thing with you, we both going, and that's what we always did. So we met Ron, started talking to Ron. Ron said he was going to work a project in Texas with the NAACP. We met Logan while we were down there. We didn't know who he was. Never looked up his name because that's not really kind of like how we roll. We didn't look up names and try to dig and figure out who these people were that we were hanging around. We were just happy to be in any environment with creatives in general. Funny enough, on the flight down to Texas, I was watching a film called Message from the King. Now, again, once we met Logan, we worked at NAACP event. At the end of it, Ron told us that Logan was working on a film. He didn't tell us what the film was. He didn't tell us who was in it. I say, Zach, let's ask if we can work on it. Cool. We talked to Logan. He's like, hey, bro, you heard you're working on a film in a few months. He was like, yeah. I said, can we work on the production? We'll be PAs. She said, cool. We got the role as PAs now. He said, it's in Philly. Can you guys make it? Well, we're in DC. Philly's like a few hour drive away, but we can do it. Mind you, we're young. We're like 25, 24. We got no real money. But I'm like, bro, we will find however much money we need to. We will sleep in my car if we have to. We're going to do this film because there's no telling what this can do for us. So we scraped together how much money we could. We bought an Airbnb for like a month and a half. Shout out to Philly. And we did it. We worked as PAs. We were additional PAs. So I'm not going to try to act like we were set PAs. There's the key PA, the set PA, and then your additionals. So we were on the outskirts of the film. So we weren't able to see like the action per se, but we did see some stuff.
Well, if you don't mind, can you explain what a production assistant does, a PA, as you mentioned?
Yeah. So the role that we were additionals. So our job was really like, it was the miscellaneous work. So if someone like a Chadwick needed a bottle of water, they would tell the key PA. The key PA would skip over telling the set PAs because the set PAs have to be on set. He would tell an additional PA, bring me a set of water so I can give it to Chad. Cool. Run to the truck, get a water, bam, give it to our key PA, I'm not gonna put his name out there, but give it to the key PA, bam, and he would hand it to Chad. Our job was to stand on the outskirts of the set. So if the sketch was on, let's say, on the 33rd block, we would be on the 34th block to tell anybody that was walking in, hey, when you get down to that block there, you're gonna have to turn because they're shooting a film on that block. We actually, funny story, me and Zach almost had to like beat up a guy in
Yeah.
Philly because they shot some of the film in Philly with New York cars. And a guy from Philly was like, man, take this New York, blah, 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 away from my block. I'll get all in my city with this New York crap, blah, blah, blah. And I was like, sir, when you get down there, can you just make a left because they're shooting? I don't care what y'all shooting in my city. What you gonna do if I don't? What you gonna do if I don't? And he was like, he got up in my face. And so I had to like step back off the curb and get ready to like swing. And I like kind of looked over his shoulder and Zach was like slowly walking up, like kind of like, okay, this dude swings, I got you. So when I stood there ready and the guy stood there ready, then he just walked off and was like, I don't give a blah, blah, blah. And he walked down to the street. And when he got to the end of that street, he made that left. There was so much stuff on set. I already knew he wasn't going to go. But that was our job, was to divert traffic, divert cars. I remember one day a car just blew past us and like got all the way up on set. And they called us and was like, where did that car come from? And we were like, we have no idea. There was an alleyway that was like in between the both of us. Like I was at the end of the block, Zach was in the middle, and then there was an alleyway that was like in between the both of us. And the car like pulled out from there, just made a turn and went right towards set, and neither one of us saw it.
Wow.
And they got pissed at us, but we had to tell them like, bro, we didn't do that. I think again, you give people sodas. They asked me to go to J.K. Simmons' trailer and give him a Dr. Pepper, I think. So I did that. And again, first time working, I'm not thinking, I don't know why I'm on set and I'm just kind of like blanked out, but they were like, hey, can you take your soda to JK? I don't know who JK is because I'm not thinking. So I get the soda and I just walk to a trailer and Zach's with me and I just knock on the door and I grab the handle and start to open it. And JK like pulls it open. He's like, hey, I was like, it's for you. He was like, oh, cool. Thanks, man. And grabs it and goes to a trailer. And Zach looks at me and when I turn around, I'm just like, what? He's like, bro, you just opened JK Simmons' trailer. And I'm like, okay. I was like, okay. He was like, you know who JK Simmons is? I was like, no. He's like, Spider-Man. And I was like, oh, the guy that owned he's like, yeah. And I was like, oh, shoot. He's like, bro, he could have been naked or something. I was like, bro. I was like, I wasn't thinking, bro. He was like, yeah, bro, don't do that. I was like, my bad. But he didn't get mad or anything. He was actually like super cool. But again, that's what we had to do, again, divert traffic, bring people drinks if they needed them. We really got shuffled around a lot. There's a scene on 21 Bridges where they're in like an alleyway and they're inside of a house. My job was to like sit, but they're in the alleyway next to like it's a house, but it looks like it's just an alleyway. But I'm like right behind a door that they're like putting clothes or drugs into a car. My job was to sit inside of that house because they had a bunch of production equipment in there. And if a guy or somebody went in there to like get an item and we were shooting, I would have to tell them like through the walkie, like, hey, you can't move, they're shooting. Not a super duper important job, but for me personally, again, that being my first time I worked on a big budget film, it was great for me. Super enjoyable.
What anything significant, profound, inspiring, anything like that that you took away from the process of making that film? Anything that like really influenced you when you got back to writing the script, working with Zach on your own films? Like, what did you take away from that 21 Bridges experience creatively?
I'm trying to think. I'm not media trained, so like, should I be completely honest?
Go ahead.
I said it was super enjoyable, but I had to be honest. Some of those guys were very. I'm gonna just be PC. They were very mean. I'm gonna just be PC with it.
And when you say the guys who were mean, who are the guys that were mean?
I can't do that. I can't say that.
No. Like, but like just by job title, was it like just your superiors?
It was superiors that were there.
Okay.
They were actually so bad that they actually ended up having to send a union rep for I forgot which union. I think it was for the extras because they did not treat the extras well. And it wasn't everybody, but there were like 4 or 5 people there that were very aggressive. They actually made the writer's niece cry. She was an additional PA, and me and Zach spoke to her, and we actually hung out with her stuff. She was very cool. Not like hung out in private, but like hung out on set. Very cool girl. And I just remember talking to her because she was like sobbing. And I was like, are you good? And she was like, no, you freaking yelled at me for sitting down. And I was like, what? And she was like, yeah, like I was sitting, we were there for like 3 hours. And like, I just sat down and he came up and asked, why the F am I sitting? And I was like, that's messed up. She was like, I don't care. It's fine. I'm going to tell my uncle about him. And I was like, who's your uncle? And she was like, he's the writer. He's one of the writers on the project. I was like, oh. And she was like, yeah, he also wrote the A-Team. And I was like, oh, the Rampage Jackson movie? And she was like, yeah, it's okay. I'm going to tell them. Saying, I actually cried on set, but it was because I was sad. The way that somebody, like, I'm not going to put no names to it, but they were speaking crazy. And because I got so mad, like I couldn't do anything. By that time, I think me and Zach, the Airbnb cost like $7,000, so we couldn't like get kicked off of set. Like we had to like be on our best behavior. I think Zach's first day going, he got pissed and like wanted to like go off, but he held his composure. And so when I said like super great time, I mean personally within like talking to the other PAs and additionals, it was very cool. But like there were things that happened that I took away from that set that let me know to not treat people on my set that way. Some of the superiors on that set definitely showed me that no matter how big a production is or small a production is, respect your crew. No matter who they are, whether they be a PA, cinematographer, lighting, gaffer, audio, whoever. Respect and just good treatment goes a long way. And again, that's what I told the students yesterday, because they're all, small filmmakers that they're trying to be. I told them, if you can't pay your actors or you can't pay your crew, feed them and just respect them and give them a good time on set. They'll be fine with coming back and helping you and working with you. In filmmaking, my opinion, like everybody's doing it just off of the love of the game. You don't get paid making films. It's not, you could be in it for the money, but it's in my opinion, 90% of films on down don't make any money. It's just indie filmmakers who make it just because they like making stuff. So if you can find people that can deal with you who don't know you for 1 to 5 days when you're making your random film that you wrote in your apartment by yourself that no one gives a crap about, be very grateful that anybody's coming out here to help bring the stuff that you thought of in your mind to life. And just like I said, you don't have to feed them a 5-star dinner, but the pizza, McDonald's, anything, bring that to set and make sure it's hot. Don't just buy it first thing in the morning and sit it to the side and then 6 hours later be like, oh, we got cold chicken sandwiches. Like, no, make sure it's hot. Small things like that people appreciate. On my set, I'm going to get on your nerves because every 20 or 30 minutes, I'm going to walk over and be like, hey, bro, you good? You need water? You sure? All right, cool. Let me know if you need anything. 5 to 20 minutes later, I'm going to come back. Hey, you straight, right? All right, cool. Let me know if you need something. Because I want to make sure there's a breakdown of the wall between us so that way you feel comfortable saying like, bro, my knee kind of hurting. All right, bro, we're going to take 5. Go sit down, bro, and chill. We'll come back later. Or we'll shoot this scene without you. We'll just shoot it from your perspective. Something like that, because I want to be able to work around my actors to make sure that they're comfortable and the set is a comfortable place. But that was something I did take away from that production. Like Logan was so cool. The additional PAs were so cool. Even the key PA dude was so dope. Like he saw that we were having like gripes and he would check up on us and make sure we were good. Those things right there showed me when it came to the positive that that's the stuff that people will remember even outside of just the negative stuff. If you give people a positive experience, they're going to remember you and they're going to remember your face. And shout out to our key PA. I can't remember his name, but if anybody wants to look it up, you can. But his mom passed away like the day before we started shooting. And like, I remember the first day on set, he was there during our interview to get hired. And the day before we started shooting, his mom passed. So the day of the first day of shooting, we get there and it was like, hey, I was like, hey, where's such and such? And it was like, oh, his mom died yesterday. And so in my mind, I'm like, oh, he's not coming back. Nope. He missed that one day. And the very next day, he was on set. I'm like, are you good? And he was like, yeah, man, I'm good. And I'm like, this is insane. But him pushing through that let me know, okay, I can push past a little bit of bad treatment if he can push past dealing with all of the stuff he's dealing with after losing his mom. And he still made sure that all of us additional PAs were treated with dignity and respect. He would still sometimes come by and give us waters and talk to us. So he's still in the mindset of doing all this stuff after having that happen to him.
Was there any fear that he was going to get like fired if he didn't come back so soon after his mom's passing, or did he just?
I didn't hear anything about that because again, this is my first time working in that area and working on a film like this. Right. But I can definitely assure you, I would assume because of how quickly things turn in this industry that there was definitely a thought that if he doesn't come, they're going to bump somebody into that spot and he may not get an opportunity again, which I don't know. He might have known those guys on set and he might have been just locked in. He might have just done it just again out of just love of the game or something. But I can say from the way it was on set, it's very like people are hustling. I personally think that if he came back for the love of the game, I got to commend that guy tenfold. But I think it was probably because there was definitely a thought of, if I don't come in, someone's going to take my spot and it's going to be hard to get it back.
Any interaction with Chadwick? Was Chadwick aware of the sort of verbal abusiveness that was
treatment.
happening amongst superiors in that on that set? Like anything?
That's the one thing I can say when it comes, because I'm not, because this is no mark against Chad at all. He was amazing on set. Like, he was very chill. Again, I think at the time he liked me battling with his cancer. I do remember only thing I never interacted with him. The only interaction I even had with him ever was during the screening that they did at Howard University of the film that we got invited to and we went. Me and Zach just took a picture with him. But you can see in the picture that like his demeanor's kind of off, and obviously because he was dealing with his cancer, which sucks because dude was amazing. But I remember on set he lost a stress ball, and I remember the guys on set were like, "Hey, Chad lost his stress ball. If you guys see it, please return it." And then describe what it looked like and everything. And I remember everybody was scrambling trying to find this thing, and I was like, "Man, he must really be stressed." And I think it was likely something that he had to use for the cancer, to deal with it physically. But I remember that was a big issue. But I never interacted with him on set as an okay. I shouldn't tell these stories, but funny thing is, I feel like if I tell them, and I, I haven't talked to Logan in years. I feel like if I tell him these stories, he'd probably even laugh at this one. So it wasn't Chad; it was his producing partner, Logan Coles, who
Okay.
hired me and Zach on set. He walked up to me, asked me how everything was going on set, took his hand, told him everything's going well. As I was talking to him to let him know, I appreciate you for hiring me to work on your production and blah, blah, blah. He's an executive producer, so, there are big deals on set. But he's the one that hired me. So he's like, yeah, man, no problem. As long as you're, cool with my guy, you're cool with me. We actually went out for drinks down when we were working at an NAACP event and everything. Like, he's a cool guy. So again, he's the one that hired me on set. So as I'm talking to him on set, and he's asking me like, hey, so, where we got to go? And I was like, oh, so that's just down there around the corner. Just go down there and make a right, blah, blah, blah. As I'm talking to him, a guy runs up to me and him and it's like, oh, hey, Mr. Coles, how's it going? Hey, just go down there and make that right. And you're going to go to set. Everything okay? You cool? You need anything? Need water? He's like, no, I'm good. He's like, all right, cool. Go ahead down there. You're good. And he has somebody walk Logan down to set. And he turns around and looks at me. I'm not going to say who the guy was, but he turns around and looks at me. He's just like, don't you ever talk to him. You don't say anything to him. When you see him, you walk past him. You don't say nothing to him. If I see you say anything to him, you're fired. Do you hear me? You don't say anything to him. Do you understand me? And I was like, okay. And I didn't say anything. And then he walks off. And in my mind, I'm like, dude, I could just tell him that you just spoke to me like that, and he'll probably get you fired. Like, he's the reason I'm here. How are you going to tell me not to speak to my friend?
Right.
And I just thought that was hilarious. And it wasn't a callback on the entire set. There was literally only maybe 4 or 5 people that sucked on that set. The entire set itself was cool to me. I think Zach ended up talking to a few of the cinematographers who were there, and they let him know what type of camera to get and all that stuff. So he was able to learn a lot. I was able to sit down with some of the extras and some of the actors and some of the stunt doubles and talk to them about their careers. So I was able to learn a lot. It was literally 4 or 5 people who just sucked on that set, but everything else was so great. A few of the extras I learned who had been extras on so many other pieces, everything from the Creed films, then because again, this is in Philly and New York, they had been extras on so many other projects. And I was like, dang, so you're an extra year round. They were just like, yeah, we get hired all the time. And I was like, I didn't know people had full-time jobs as permanent extras and seat fillers. And they were like, yeah, this is my full-time job. I do this all the time. I got to talk to a security guard who was Michael B. Jordan's personal security guard during the Creed franchise. So I thought that was cool. Talking to all these people who work in production who don't have a name, but they have a face was so awesome to me because now you're seeing the people behind the people. So yes, you see the actors and the directors and all that stuff, but who are the people that are behind them who are taking them to set? Who are the people behind them that are shooting the stuff? Not the actual DP, but the cinematographer who holds the camera. Who is that? All that stuff right there was so amazing to me. And so many people on that set were so friendly to again tell me that stuff. Again, talking to the stunt doubles. I was like, so are you Chadwick's permanent stunt double? He was like, yeah. I was like, oh, what other projects have you done? He told me some other projects and it blew my mind away. And again, just to give a call back, because I don't think I ever gave this answer. When I first met Logan and found out that he was working with Chadwick, I also learned, once we learned that it was 21 Bridges at the film that we were going to work on, I look, and they had worked on another film before that called Message from the King, which I thought was so cool because that was the film I watched on the way to meet him for the first time. So I thought that was interesting. It was almost like the universe was showing me what I was going to do before I did it.
Absolutely. Wow. And obviously, being on that set of 21 Bridges and seeing how the crew was treated unfairly, but also seeing how the process works, regardless, it gives you a lot of education going into the making of your own films.
Mhm.
As we close out here, Justin, can you give us a tease of a film that you're currently working on?
Yeah.
Maybe like what the story is about, when it might be coming out. Like what can you give us?
So this next one I'm doing, so my first project was about a sundown town, based around my grandparents. My second film was a boxing piece. One of my favorite films was Creed. So I thought that was like super dope. So I was like, I want to make my own boxing piece. It was also a way for me to practice my movements when it came to like working with the cinematographer and like shooting action, but make sure my actors stayed safe. So we shot like a sparring scene. But now this piece that I'm doing, because the first one was drama, the second one was a drama. I was like, I kind of want to try horror, because my first piece was a drama thriller, and seeing people kind of be they weren't on the edge of their seats per se, but some viewers were. I thought that that was very interesting. So I was like, I wonder if I can take it past edge of your seat and actually have people be just outright scared. So this next one is going to be a horror, and without giving too much away, it's going to be about a girl and a dog. That's all I can say. But it's called it's called
Okay.
Stray. And it's basically it involves a girl, a dog, and mental health, and
All right.
that's going to be the most I can say for now. But the key piece about it that I'm working on is it's going to be no dialogue. It's going to be like a 10 or 15-minute piece, but no dialogue at all. One, working with dialogue is hard. Trying to find the right mic is hard. Trying to find an audio editor is hard. So I'm eliminating that for the hard factor. But outside of that, it's also like, I wonder if I can tell a story without using words and just using action. If I can show what they're trying to say via the action and via the facial expressions and all that type of stuff. So it's something to challenge me and see how good I can write just physical body language. And if I can get that story across without even having to say words, I think that'll be a great accomplishment for me.
And how can we keep in touch with you on socials or on like, is there a website? Just anything you can provide so we can keep in touch with the progress of this film.
Yeah. So right now I'm really only on Instagram, and I have a YouTube channel too that shows some of my work. Both have the same name. I direct films, just the letter I, DIRECT, FILMS. Um, Once I really started doing my film stuff, I really got rid of all my social media. So no Facebook, no X, no nothing. It's literally just my Instagram and my YouTube. And outside of that, if I'm not watching YouTube Shorts, I'm watching Reels. If I'm not watching Reels, I'm watching YouTube Shorts. That's really it. And because I really, again, at that when I first started, I thought it was going to be like the next big thing. But now I'm a big thing to myself. I'm a big deal to myself, and I enjoy doing the art that I do.
I love that. All right. Well, Justin Smothers, is that how you pronounce your last name?
Yes, sir. Not Smoothers, not Smothers Brothers, not Smuckers. I've been told all of these things since I was a kid. Is just Smothers.
Yeah, Smothers. Well, yeah, pronounced like Smothers Brothers, but I
Yeah,
know you
like
don't want
yeah.
to be related to the Smothers Brothers.
I've heard
I
some
know that's
people say,
something
"You ever heard of
shaped your
Smothers Brothers?" No.
Yeah. You haven't heard of the Smothers Brothers?
Now I have, because I kept getting asked as like a kid, so I looked it
Yeah.
up and I was like, okay, they're like an old duo from like old television. Yeah.
Yeah. They were an iconic brother. Like they were actually brothers. They were a comedic duo. They played like the banjo and sang, and they were very they were probably like the earliest iteration of the political satire that you see so much today, because like today where you have your Daily Show, your Stephen Colbert, your Jon Stewart's, like all of these people satirizing whatever's going on in politics, the Smothers Brothers were probably the only game in town doing that back in like what, the 60s 70s, with like the Vietnam War and Nixon and Watergate. So look them up if you get a chance. I was not alive, we were both not alive when their
No.
show was on the air, but I got a chance to read their book about their show and their impacts, like I don't know, over a decade ago, and it was really a really interesting read. So your last name is associated with a great duo. For those of you listening and watching, The Delicious Culture, wherever you get your podcasts. We're on Apple, Spotify, iHeartRadio, SiriusXM, Amazon, wherever you get your podcasts. If you're on Spotify, leave us a 5-star rating if you like it. If you're on Apple, leave us a written review. It really helps. Email if you have any feedback, questions, comments about this episode here, thedeliciousculture@gmail.com. That is thedeliciousculture@gmail.com. I am on Instagram, YouTube, and TikTok at The Delicious Culture. That is at The Delicious Culture. So subscribe, comment, like, share. That is lovely. And you can follow me on TikTok personally at Jon Francois Presents. Justin, once again, thank you and best of luck.
Next time we need to talk about pasta. I'm a big pasta guy. So next time we're going to talk about that.
Oh, I can go on for ages about pasta. Oh my goodness. Have you been to Italy? Because that's still my dream vacation.
Haven't, but I heard their stuff isn't that good. I don't know. Maybe I'm Americanized. I don't know. Because I think some of the stuff we order here isn't real pasta compared to there. So I don't know. But I would like to go and see. I'm big on like, you know, the Alfredos and stuff like that. So we'll see. We'll see.
Yeah, yeah. So to pay the bills, I like Uber and Lyft drive here in Vermont. And one of the riders is like a study abroad student from Italy. And he was telling me that the same thing, that the food is not as great as you imagine it would be. Like I'm thinking like, oh, Italian food in America, it pales in comparison to Italian food in Italy. But he was just like, eh.
It's the GMOs. We love the GMOs.
Yeah. No, I got you. All right, man. Take care, Justin. And for all of you listening and watching, let deliciousness ring.